The scarred man, the fire. That's what she kept thinking, scribbling down in her notebook. Durukti had realized what Kali hadn't. A conspiracy was brewing around everyone, perpetrated by a man who people should be afraid of, but was unfortunately unknown to all. Simran was just a pawn for that scarred man, a fiddle that'll be knocked away once her duty was fulfilled. But it also meant that Simran, who she had simply adored, was a cheater, a liar, and a horrible person, though all the hatred Durukti had for her had to conceal. Otherwise Simran would run away and the truth will be lost. Who is this scarred man? She tried to recall all the conversations, all the history that she had learnt over a period of time. She tried to wonder why she constantly ignored Simran whenever she could, sometimes saying she's busy, sometimes dismissing her, but it was always for a valid reason, so Simran wouldn't think Durukti doing all of it on purpose. The scarred man was around here, ensuring that everything began and ended at the right moment. He was the one who was orchestrating each and every single move to cause a domino effect. He wanted Kalki out and he wanted Kali ill. Durukti recalled the conversation she had had with Kali when he had been ill. He had told her about a dream he had had. The dream, or a nightmare as one may call it, which had showed that the reason behind the fire in the village was not the tribal conflict. It had been a one-man job. A tall man with a scar over his forehead. Could this person who Simran was talking to be the same person? And what was the Eye of Brahma? Durukti had overheard Simran telling someone about it, but she had no idea of what it was. The only way to know more about what Simran was up to was to track her movements, and that was what she was doing for days. Durukti had made sure to keep her distance, hiding herself in a black cloak and staying out of sight while following Simran. Most of the time Simran would take a quick turn, and when Durukti would follow there won't be anyone, or when Simran disappeared a boy would be there instead of her. It was like Simran knew magic, like she could shapeshift if she felt someone was following her. Simran always managed to dodge Durukti's gaze one way or the other, and Durukti had been unable to find out where Simran was going all the time. Today though, Durukti made sure that she was quite far from Simran, hiding behind a different fabric cloak and doing things on the side while peering from the corners. She didn't even have guards to support her. She was ready to take a leap of faith with it, and just like that Simran didn't change direction. When she did turn, it was her and no one else. She didn't shapeshift, perhaps because Durukti was being careful about it. Simran strolled across the marketplace and close to the ravines of the city, passing along the mud houses. She had now reached a building that was Ratri's library, now helmed by a few other manavs. Vedanta took care of it mostly, which meant he wasn't around, but his men were. Durukti saw Simran entering the library, and Durukti entered as well. Checking herself in the library was grand in every sense and had become better than the last time. It had bronze staircases and golden tapestry paintings by the local painters, and the musty fragrance of paper which was aromatically essential for Durukti. She watched Simran move up and leave for the end aisle upstairs. Durukti followed, but rather than being in Simran's aisle, she went opposite, only to see her pull out a book. After discussing with the librarian, Durukti could hear a little of what she was saying to her. Thank you for ordering this book for me. It came after much difficulty. It was out of print. The book was hardbound, but rather scorched at the corners. For 1 hour then Durukti saw Simran read it cover to cover, and finally when she was done with it, she kept it back from where she had pulled it out. As Simran descended, her eyes fell over to Durukti, who instantly covered her face and began to search books in her aisle, avoiding eye contact. She wished Simran hadn't seen her. When Durukti looked from the corner of her eye, she saw that Simran had vanished instantly. Durukti walked to the book Simran had pulled out. She held it open, dropped it on the table, and started flipping the pages. It talked about ancient artifacts in detail. The sword of Shiva, the scythe of Yam. They were all weapons in some way or the other, with scribbled illustrations in black and white giving a very ancient feel to it. She finally flipped over to find a strange eye symbol on which 4 shards of glass had been designed, all joining together to form the design of one eye that had long lashes. At the top was written the Eye of Brahma. Each shard represented something or the other. The first shard represented past, the middle one said present, the third one said future, and the fourth one was the most interesting. It didn't say anything. It was left incomplete. The Eye of Brahma, she spoke to herself. Reading it lets you watch the world in all the 4 ways as Lord Brahma sees it. And she read ahead. In the beginning of Ilavarti, when mankind was less in number, animals were more, darkness didn't exist, and hope filled the world, there was a tribe that included all the other tribes. That tribe was headed by Lord Brahma. They were pious, devoid of temptations and restlessness. They were eternal eternally happy. They all were in love with each other. Lord Brahma, the leader of that group, chose to use his powers for good, protecting his people, but that led him to battle the demon Kashyapa, the leader of the Daityas, creatures of the underworld. They began to terrorize Lord Brahma and his race. Finally, Kashyapa won and took over Ilavarti, causing Brahma to lose his governance over his people, who were then divided into 5 major tribes: Nagas, Rakshas, Gandharvas, Yakshas, Manavas. Brahma lost and chose to leave for heaven, but made sure that like him, future generations would not face this problem of impending doom. He asked Lord Shiva to cut off his heads. When Lord Shiva used his sword to do so, Lord Brahma's head turned into 4 shards. The eye was a gift for mankind, named the Eye of Brahma. It has been lost ever since, and those who find it are said to be of divine importance themselves. The shards represent the past, present, future, and the rest of the page was blank. She stopped reading. This just doesn't make sense. It's absolutely stupid. This was Drupadi began to think that there must be some scientific reasoning behind all of it, but then she had seen what Simran could do and how the scarred man had once used a shining image of himself to communicate with her. That was in the territory of magic. Not all things in this world need reasoning behind it. Drupadi closed the book. Who could she trust to share this information with? She wanted to talk to Kalki, but he was not here. A gut-wrenching worry soaked her. She just wondered what he was doing. Hell, if he was even alive. Arjun, Kalki's brother. He was in prison. He seemed dependable. She could share it with him, but then trapped in the 4 walls, he might not know much. What if I help him escape and we can go together to Kalki? But where will she find him? She didn't even know if Kalki was alive. No, it seemed far-fetched. She wanted to see that boy's face and feel the warmth in her heart again. Like a flustered girl, you do realize you don't do quite well in concealing your identity, lady. A voice softly chided from the back. Drupadi turned to face the ponytailed girl of 13 staring back at her with her almond eyes and a cherub face, wearing a lovely gown and clinging to a simple doll. It was Urvashi, Vedanta's daughter. What are you doing here? This is a library. What do you think? She winked playfully. Drupadi felt stupid. What do you want, Urvashi? I'm quite curious as to why the king's sister is looking into her handmaiden's practices so much to gossip. Urvashi clapped her hands, a glint of mischief in her eyes. Quite fascinating, isn't it? She had said the word king as if it was derogatory, and it was valid to say it like that because Kali had practically stolen the throne from Vedanta. Though regardless of that, Drupadi had no contempt towards her. I must apologize for Kali's behavior. It's not your fault, just like the sins committed by my father, which I do not have to worry about. She smiled. We are our own individuals, and we will be the sum of our failures, and our choices will define us. No other person can state it for us. You know absolutely right, she exclaimed. She hadn't expected such wisdom from a 13-year-old. You should be careful with your handmaiden. She arched her brows. Vidyadhars were magicians trained in the art of disguises and illusions. That's why she had been able to disguise herself as a blind astrologer when Kali had been attacked. How did you know? Oh, because I read about them, and also because I saw her change her shape while you were busy hiding yourself. She suspects foul play. You know well. She better. Might I know why you are following her? Drupadi noticed the curiosity in the girl and just shrugged. It shouldn't matter to you. Oh well, you are right, Lady Drupadi, but you must not underestimate a person like me. I can be quite the help around here. Why would you want to help me? Because I'm bored. I need some amusement for myself. Drupadi sighed. You are funny. You want something out of her, right? Drupadi narrowed her eyes. And how did you know that? You can't ask her straight. Thus you are following her. You think there is something sinister going on. Otherwise you could have used your power as the crown's sister to end your handmaiden's life, who is practically a nobody. That means your handmaiden has a grip on you, and you need a way to do it in such a way that your brother doesn't find out. It makes me wonder, why don't you tell your sweet brother? The question was laced with pure sarcasm. Drupadi nodded. Because it's a personal matter and I don't trust him. It's all right. She paused. But if you want my help, do let me know. And she began to turn around. Drupadi coughed. In what way can you help? Urvashi swiveled her head to face Drupadi and pulled up the corners of her lips. I know exactly how to make your handmaiden speak more than she would want to. How? Oh, you see, Drupadi had thought of Arjun as an ally in this mission, but she had just found an unexpected one, someone quite young and who would later turn out to be quite powerful. Vedanta had thought that he knew what was best for the city. He once used to rule the iota of religion that Vedanta had managed to seep in was leaving. He had no idea about the other cities of Indragarh. But Indragarh itself had been damaged enough in all spectrums, and he had vowed to finish this tyranny of the so-called King Kali. He had thought long and hard, wondering what could be the best way to do it. He thought of possible strategies, read books, and tried to find solutions from the emperors who had ruled before him, but the problem was none of it showed how one could beat someone empowered by the somas, which made him think, could he use it to fight Kali? No, that's adulterating myself to substances. He didn't want to be Kali, but to defeat him he had to become someone like him. Perhaps even if he thought of going down this path, where will he find more somas? The stock had been destroyed. Perhaps Kali had hidden some of it. Did he have more? Vedanta was getting restless, and he had to take the crown back. He had a few soldiers who still respected him, cared for him, and looked up to him. He also had his daughter, who he had to take care of. To get the city back, the current king must die, a coup must arise, and for that he had to hire more soldiers and bribe them. But money was an issue, and he knew money could only be taken from only one man. Kuvera. Vedanta travelled on his horse with two of his soldiers behind. As the city watched him, he was moving towards Kuvera's fort, and as he shared glances with the city folk, he couldn't help but remember the time few individuals had dared to stand against him. The rebellion had happened a long time ago, before Urvashi's birth. When he was with his wife, he was hot in blood, but yet afraid. Fear was always there within him. Once he had inherited the throne from his father, he didn't want anyone to take it away, the crown. He was so insecure that he had all the people in the rebellion killed. King Vibhishna had assisted these traitors. His father Vibhishna I had ruled one of the greatest cities in Dakshini, Lanka. Vibhishna was also the cousin of Raktpa. When Vedanta had defeated Vibhishna and killed his family, Vibhishna had sworn revenge, but nothing had happened. Vibhishna had lacked the courage to keep his word. Thus Vedanta could understand why Raktpa had been so eager to join Kali's campaign. He had wanted Vedanta to fall for hurting Vibhishna. Did Vedanta regret all of it? Surely he did. He was a changed man now. He had a daughter, so he could understand what Vibhishna had been through, and if Vedanta could ever get a chance to plead for forgiveness from the Dakshini king, he would, but not now. Now he had graver issues to deal with. He reached Kuvera's fort, which was just like what he had expected it to be. Everything from the floor to the ceiling was adorned with pure gold. The place smelled of fruits, and the accompanying sounds were of dancers in skimpily clad clothes who entertained Kuvera's ministers. Vedanta dismounted from the horse and walked forward, his one hand over the hilt of his sword. Passing the dancers and the ministers, he climbed the staircases to see the dwarf-like yaks glaring at him. Yaks could be categorized in one simple line: they were small and ugly. He was unattractive but huge, and so were his sons, Nalkuvera and Manigriva. Unlike Kuvera, Vedanta had heard a lot of good things about them. They were charming, handsome, and fierce. When needed, Vedanta entered Kuvera's quarters, and he found him sitting on a mini throne eating grapes given by an apsara. It was the classic act of living a life filled with gluttony and indulgence. A Kuvera mused, shushing the apsara, who walked away in an instant. Please come in. He directed his hand at a cushion to sit, to which Vedanta refused. We need to do something about Kali. You surely are an idiot, my lord. Excuse me, Vedanta growled. You shouldn't have come to meet me in broad daylight. Lord Kali has grown smarter with his spy network. Now he will know. Let him, Vedanta announced as loudly as he could, his voice booming across the room. I had given my crown for my daughter, but I won't let him take my beliefs away. He's destroying each temple, every shrine in the city, taking people's beliefs. Fortunately not mine. Vedanta gritted his teeth. I don't care about yours. You are worshipped as a god amongst your men. You have a different primitive religion than mine. Ah, well, yes. Kuvera grinned, and Vedanta noticed the purple lining across his throat, as if his clothes were choking him. But Kuvera showed no haste, and he looked comfortable. Not primitive, advanced is the word. Have you come here to belittle me? I would like your help. I would advise you to watch your manners then, my lord. He gestured with his hand, chuckling softly. How do you plan to defeat Lord Kali, might I ask? I shall take away his army. He might be strong by that bloody liquid, but he cannot defeat an army. Do you have your loyalists? Yes, there are those who believe in me, and there are those who don't, whom I shall pay bribes. Well, I never expected that from an honorable man like you. These are desperate times, and since the treasury is under Lord Kali, you need money from me. Vedanta nodded glumly. Kali in our prior participation. I had helped you kill Vasuki, even helped you. Do not need to justify your alliance with me. To be honest, I need Lord Kali to go as much as you do, but he's grown smarter and madder. If he sees us betraying him, he shall not even hesitate to kill us. He thoughtfully mused, but also he's handling his government well. The grain prices have been reduced, the tax rate has been lowered, he's giving away money in charity and building houses in the poverty-stricken places. Yes, the endowments he would be getting from the idols will go away since he's destroying them. Vedanta snapped, I don't care what he's doing, I ruled better than him any day. I believed in traditions which our forefathers left us with, and who says these traditions were wrong? Vedanta went silent. I had two sons, Nalkuvera and Manigriva. I know. No, you don't. I just received the news that Manigriva has been killed. Vedanta arched his brows. I'm sorry for TSK. It's okay. He was never my favorite. And imagine who killed him. Nalkuvera, his brother. Hey, he clapped his hand in laughter. It was a petty feud over an Apsara. You see, Manigriva was the honorable one doing things out of duty and love. He was emotional, he cared, while Nalkuvera was mad, frantic and unpredictable. Manigriva's so-called honor killed him. You see where I'm getting at? We don't live in times where good honorable men triumph, and if they do, in the rarest of instances they lose something in the process. Vedanta could understand that he was being equated with Manigriva and Kali with Nalkuvera, but Vedanta was older, wiser. He had seen wars and crushed all rebellions. Manigriva had not had his experience. I'm not as honorable as you think. I'm all right. Good, then you must do something for me, and in return I shall fund your coup. What do you want? Pradma, he is a thorn in my plans. Pradma? He was the Rakshas general of Kali's army. He would have to die eventually, but why did Kuvera want him to die? Something didn't add up, but questions beget insecurity, and Vedanta couldn't show Kuvera that it's good for you. My lord, he's the one who's destroying the shrines under Lord Kali's order. Relieve the executor from his work, and you have my support. Easy. Vedanta nodded. You seem confused. I thought you'll ask something else. Of course not. People still trust you. Your soldiers still love you because they believe you are a great man, and no matter what, you shall never go against your morals. You show me you can take down Pradma, I will believe that you have the capability of killing Lord Kali, that you still have guts capability. Of course I have the bloody capability. With a stomp he walked away from Kuvera's chambers, wondering how he was going to kill a brawny fierce Rakshas. Padma had never thought that in her journey of living the life of a ferocious assassin in the city of Indragarh she would become a rebel and end up babysitting a so-called savior. Kalki was anything but a hero. He was an idiot, first of all rude, disrespectful, and worse, he was just plain irritating. Always whining, always coming up with stupid plans that made no sense. There was a reason why the Pishach had appeared out of nowhere. It was because Kalki had made so much noise with his mouth that it had alerted the Pishach. They wouldn't have come up if he hadn't caused a ruckus while they were being dragged with the horses. She had been cutting down her restraints with her pocket knife. She had been this close to escaping, but the savior chose to use his pea-brain at the worst possible moment, and now here they were, inked Tiavanbi eyeless surrounding them, jumping from one tree to another, and the ones who were on the ground had their darts aimed at them. With the slightest of movement they would surely shoot them down. Padma knew that the Pishach wouldn't kill them. They would toy around with them and then eat them, but not kill them instantly. Pishach were the bottom feeders of the society, the illiterates, the dark and dusty. They were looters and rapists, but they also followed a system. They must have hired the Sinhas to get them more humans, because Pishach believed they facilitated the soon-to-be dead to the afterlife. With the help of their brethren they could deliver people from their wretched lives. In short, they were a cannibalistic cult, and Padma, Kripa and Kalki were just about to meet their head chief. They travelled inside the trenches of the jungle to see. The ground was turning murky, leaves were going scarce, but the dense canopies hid the little sunlight the place had, and soon her eyes fell on the dark path that lay ahead of her. Grotesquely beautiful she could call it, as she saw the entire ground was swamped, deep, dark and dingy. It smelled, and mosquitoes swarmed all over it. Frogs crept around it. The only sound she could hear were the crazy syllables made by the Pishach. She knew what they talked like. Their language was same as their own, except they were speaking in reverse. It was confusing. I wonder how they all learned this language. Over the swamp were huts and nets that covered the distances between each tree. The huts were long and elongated, some camouflaged under the canopy. They were made of wood and reed. The branches were tough as well. The nets were carved in such a way that they acted like paths. There were ladders that helped one to go out, but neither the hostages nor the Pishach needed a ladder. They were able to jump from one place to another barefoot, though The scary part was the vines. When one hut was far off and the net wasn't there, Padma saw them using long vines to travel. Like monkeys, where the hell are we? Padma quietly said, only to get a response from Kripa, it's called Daldal. Lands where no man walks, and if they do walk, they never return. Padma narrowed her gaze to look at Kripa questionably when Kalki asked him, you make things as you go, right? Sometimes, mate. Kripa grinned. Padma was then told to travel by the ladder. She climbed up and reached the nets and carefully walked over them until she finally reached a hut that had a solid green surface made of branches, woods, and leaves. Kalki was behind her, and they all were standing in a line when the